It's a warm welcome here in our studio in Serekunda, and this is Star TV News with me, Sarah Kamara. In the headlines tonight, China to provide 5,000 tons of rice for the Gambia. Banjulians want revival of city's glory. Yundum Barak Senior Secondary School inaugurated. On the international scene, tension between youths and government in Cameroon. Sanders wins in New Hampshire, narrowly beating Botiki. WHO warns of grape risks to poorer countries regarding the coronavirus. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. After his audience with President Adama Barrow at the State House in Banjul, the Chinese ambassador to the Gambia, His Excellency Ma Junchung, revealed that the People's Republic of China has decided to offer 5,000 metric tons of rice to the Gambia in what he described as humanitarian emergency aid to mitigate the extreme weather last year. Maria Madem reports.
Ambassador Jian Chung applauded the significant and remarkable achievement the government has made in building the new Gambia, as well as the level of cooperation between the two countries.
The significant and remarkable achievement the Gambia government has made in building the new Gambia. We also exchanged some views on the cooperation between our two countries. I briefed His Excellency the progress and the plan in our practical cooperation between our two countries. For instance, I introduced to His Excellency the Chinese government Chinese government decide to offer about 5,000 metric tons of rice as the humanitarian emergency aid to help the Gambian people mitigate the harm of the extreme weather last year.
Touching on the pandemic coronavirus that China is currently combating, Ambassador Jian Chung said he updated President Barrow on the situation and the commitment of President Xi Jinping in mobilizing every resource available in China to battle against the outbreak.
As you know, we are now working on combating the outbreak of the novel coronavirus. Under the leadership of His Excellency President Xi Jinping, Chinese government mobilized the whole China's resources across the China to battle against this kind of outbreak. Recently, mainly we concentrated in treating the patients well, and meanwhile to curb the spread of the outbreak of the epidemic. So recently, some significant progress also has shown in China. So I also talked to His Excellency about this kind of situation. And His Excellency President Adam Barrow expressed his sympathy, solidarity, and support to the Chinese people, the Chinese government and Chinese people on behalf of the Gambian people. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Yeah.
President Barrow has expressed his support, sympathy, and solidarity with the Chinese people on behalf of the Gambian government and people. Maria Madam, reporting for Star TV News.
A delegation of Banjulian comprising representatives at the local council, National Assembly, civil society, community groups on Tuesday paid a courtesy call on His Excellency President Adama Barrow at State House. Jacqueline Colley sends us this report.
The delegation of more than 40 people, among several other requests, called for street lighting, industries, town hall, youth capacity building schemes, and more infrastructures that will help revive the capital city's past glory as administrative capital of the Gambia. The cleanliness of Banjul today is unrevived for a very long time, especially for half-die, Assembly member Fatoumata Njai told the president. She expressed her impression with the ongoing works in the city, trusting that more of such are in store for Banjul if the president is given the support he needs. Mohammed now added his voice to the call for street lights in the city, so as to rid the inhabitants of darkness at night. Lights will better illuminate the ongoing works on roads, sewage and drainage systems, he fondly said. To the Banjulians, there still exists more land space for the construction of office building in Banjul, which can further change the face of the city as the capital of the Gambia. So far, the ongoing works have created great impacts on Banjulians that so many who wanted to sell their landed properties so they can settle outside the city are rethinking such proposals. However, they are worried that the seaport expansion plan in the city will affect so many residences and make several areas inhabitable. They want the development of swampy lands into housing schemes that will expand settlement opportunities for them. Lights are a necessity, just as trees in the city. It is important to have a town hall in Banjul so that conferences can be hosted and artists can perform in the city, said Aji Louise Job, a woman in her 60s. She added that establishment of a youth center and the revival of Saro will greatly help create jobs and build capacity for the youths. Saro was famous for value addition of granules as the country's main cash crop in the 70s and 80s. Factories were set up to process granules into finished goods like cooking oil and its hulks converted into briquettes. Factories were also set up to process fish from the city's waters, and cold stores existed to help preserve raw foodstuffs. At one time, turbines were used to generate electricity that supplied all of Banjul and parts of Bakau. Now, Banjulians want these to be revived and more. The president, who recalled fond memories of his youthful days in the city, was elated. He said Banjul as a capital should be a true reflection of the state of the Gambia. Hence, his government attaches great importance to its transformation. President Barrow takes a lot of pride in being the first opposition candidate to win against an incumbent president, which was unprecedented in 52 years of the city's electoral history. In 1978, he came to Banjul as a pupil to march in the independence celebrations and listen to the country's first president address the students. In 2018, he was addressing students as president at the same grounds with former president among the audience, because it was destined to be. He will hence remain steadfast in executing his mandate as expected by electorates and will continue to focus on constructing his legacy in office. Basiru Ndao, an official of President Barrow's newly registered MPP, said, "The president's performance in office has already surpassed expectations as enshrined in his campaign manifesto when he ran for office in 2016. The delegation was accompanied to the State House by Ministers of Finance, Mambo Renjai, Transport and Works by Lamin Job, and Fisheries, Mr. James F. Gomez, who are all Banjulians, and among a third of the cabinet composition of President Barrow's government." Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News.
The Gambia Armed Forces held the inauguration of a new block of the Yundum Barracks Senior Secondary School located inside the Yundum Military Barracks. The construction of these several classrooms was funded by the MRC Holland Foundation. The new building is one of many sponsored by the MRC Holland Foundations. Binta Koli files in this report.
The MRC Holland Foundation was founded in 2011 with the aim of contributing to a better world. The foundation believes that education is the motor for change. For this reason, the foundation's main objective is to support projects aimed at increasing the educational opportunities for less privileged countries. At this moment, most efforts are focused on improving the educational facilities and resources in the Gambia. Speaking at the event, Mrs. Maron Scottin, founder of the foundation, says this is one of many schools her foundation has built in this country. She says the foundation will continue to help Gambian children to have quality education. The principal of the school, Warrant Officer Lamin Cherna, says gone are those days when parents will have to struggle just to send their children to school. Cherno continued that it was a very rough road for the members of the staff. They used charcoal to write as means of chalk because of lack of adequate learning materials. This is now history thanks to the foundation. He thanked MRC Holland Foundation and promised them that the facilities will be utilized accordingly. Fabra Juve, Senior Education Officer at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, also acknowledged the efforts of MRC Holland Foundation. He advised the school management and students to take good care of the facilities.
But it's in my speech, and I was admonishing the stakeholders, that is the students, the teachers, the parents, the community at large, to take great care of these structures and try to maintain them as much as possible so that it will be here for generations to come. And I think they will heed to this advice. They are responsible people, and we have been monitoring their activities, and we have seen what they have done in their previous structures. And I know if they continue with that, these structures will stay here for a long time to come.
The Gambia currently has an average of 55 students per classroom in government schools. The number of students increased yearly by 6% due to population growth and because more children attend schools. A large number of the current learning facilities are suboptimal. They often lack basic facilities such as electricity, a good water supply, and sufficient toilets. In addition, many children have to walk long distances because there is no school near their homes. The MRC Holland Foundation has made it a priority to modernize and increase the number of primary and secondary school facilities in the Gambia. The foundation's team in the Gambia work in close collaboration with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, MOPSI, to ensure the resources are used effectively to improve the opportunities of education for children. For Star TV News, I am Binta Koli.
We're going for a short commercial break and we'll be back with the international news. Welcome back, and now news beyond our borders. In a rare public address, Cameroon's President Paul Biya has urged young people to end the armed separatist movement in English-speaking regions. The country is waiting for the results of municipal and parliamentary elections after Sunday's vote. Al Jazeera Nicholas Hake reports from the economic capital, Douala.
Celebrating Cameroon's youth with a parade for its aging leader. They marched to the portrait of their 87-year-old president, Paul Biya, who by the time he leaves power will be in his mid-90s, making him the oldest living state leader. That's if he's able to finish his time in office. Because in the country's English-speaking region, young people are taking up arms, joining a separatist movement. They want to break away from Cameroon to create their own country, Ambazonia. Home to 4 million people and the size of Switzerland, the English-speaking regions are on lockdown since Sunday's local elections. Violence there has killed 3,000 people and left 1 million displaced, most of them children. In a rare public address, Biya called on young people to lay down their arms, calling for dialogue.
Once again, I urge them to come out of the bush and rejoin their other fellow young citizens who are leading normal lives in our society.
This is rapper Valsera, who was arrested in an opposition rally. In his music, he's an outspoken critic of the government, calling on the president to work for the people, not against them, and accusing the aging elite of leaving the young and their aspirations behind. The government says people here are free to express themselves, but when it comes to President Paul Biya or the English-speaking regions, it's another matter. And so anti-terror laws are being used to arrest people who are critical of the government. And so young people are having to use other ways to express themselves.
Portrait in my art is Cameroon.
Bernard Ategwa is originally from the English-speaking regions. His exhibition, The Hard Way, The Only Way, is about his personal struggles, but also the need for peace among the Cameroonian people.
I'm not happy of the situation back there. Civilians are dying, are dying, policemen are dying, like gendarmes are dying, so it's not really good. So I'm really feeling bad because that is where I came from.
For French-speaking artist Jean-David Côté, art can do what politics cannot and awake the masses.
Art is the mirror of society, and the issue here is that we have not successfully united the English and French Cameroon. It is something that can be easily resolved with a little willpower.
Two artists, one vision, painting a nation struggling to find unity, where a young majority feels silenced and disconnected from its old leaders, now wanting to take control of their own future. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Douala.
An attack on Magina in the Democratic Republic of Congo, northeast, has killed at least 12 people. Rebel groups allied democratic fighters are suspected of carrying out the raids using machetes and guns. Hundreds of thousands have fled their homes in the Beni region during the last 2 months, according to UNHCR, the United Nations Refugees Agency. More on this report with Al Jazeera.
Another massacre in the town of Mangina in the northeast of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Allied Democratic Forces, a rebel group, is being blamed for carrying out an ambush, attacking victims with machetes and guns.
Right now there are 12 bodies being buried at Makusa, and 12 people are missing or have been kidnapped by the ADF Ugandan rebels.
Family members are angry and frustrated.
We are worried about the situation all the time. There seems to be no end. The government needs to come to our aid. It's lasted for years. We've had enough.
Mangina is an area that's been exposed to the Ebola outbreak since 2018. The latest attack has forced shops and markets to close. Only soldiers and aid workers patrol the streets. Panicked residents are packing whatever they can carry and leaving to find safety. Many were uprooted from their homes before. They're now heading 30 kilometers east towards the town of Beni, between North Kivu and Ituri provinces.
My father's body is in this coffin. He was killed with a machete by ADF rebels while farming. We managed to get parts of his body so that we can go back and bury him in the village.
But Beni has come under frequent attack with hundreds of people killed. It's also facing a major threat of Ebola. Treatment centers have been destroyed and authorities are struggling to control this volatile region.
The Ebola outbreak in Mangina is getting under control, but in Beni it is still active. Now with the mass movement of people from Mangina to Beni, there are some who have not been taken care of. Also, the rebels can take advantage of this with more attacks.
The UN has sent in reinforcements.
We have now doubled our efforts in those areas, including conducting a lot of patrols in that area to ensure protection of civilians day and night. We're also using our air assets to provide information about the movements of these fighters to make sure that we track them.
Tensions have escalated since December when the Congolese army, along with UN peacekeepers and a local militia, led an offensive against the Allied Democratic Forces. But for many trying to escape the violence and a health epidemic, the road to peace and security looks more uncertain. Rahila Mohammed, Al Jazeera.
Bernie Sanders has won the New Hampshire Democratic primary, bringing the world one step closer to knowing who will run against United States President Donald Trump in November's election. The veteran senator from Vermont maintained the U.S. is ready for left-wing policies. Al Jazeera Patty Colhan was there for his victory speech in Manchester.
He was expected to win, and he did.
Now, our campaign is not just about beating Trump, it is about transforming this country. It is about having the courage to take on Wall Street, the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders takes the most delegates in New Hampshire, not far behind former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg, a relative newcomer.
So many of you decided that a middle-class mayor and a veteran from the industrial Midwest was the right choice to take on this president, not in spite of that experience, but because of it.
These were not the expected frontrunners, but with former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren faltering, new faces came to the front. Voters said that was a big reason so many were undecided up until the last minute.
Some of the frontrunners, I'm not sure, I think their ideas are good, but I'm not sure they have the right path and they have the right ideas. So I think that's why people are now leaning this way and kind of at this last minute, like, this is a strong possibility here.
Coming in third, another unexpected candidate moves to the front of the pack, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar.
I'm Amy Klobuchar, and I will beat Donald Trump.
New Hampshire is important for momentum, attention, and money raised.
It's clear tonight from the numbers that we are not going to win this race.
Two of the lesser-known candidates quit after this vote, but all of the top contenders said they were staying in.
It ain't over, man. We're just getting started.
We still have 98% of our delegates for our nomination up for grabs, and Americans in every part of the country are going to make their voices heard.
In exit polls, Democratic voters made clear their number one priority is finding someone who can beat Donald Trump. But they're split on the best way to do that, from the far left or the center. Leaving New Hampshire, it's still not clear which camp will win in the end. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Manchester, New Hampshire.
The Chinese government has announced another 94 deaths from coronavirus, bringing the total number of deaths worldwide to more than 1,100 people. These cases are mostly in mainland China. Earlier, the head of the World Health Organization said the virus should be viewed as public enemy number one, given the grave threat it poses to the world. But China key epidemiologist says the number of infections in the country could now be on the decline. Al Jazeera Andy Chappell reports.
As the first patients were released from temporary hospitals in Wuhan City on Tuesday, there was a glimmer of hope that China's efforts to contain the coronavirus may be succeeding. Reassuring perhaps for the 50 million people on lockdown under quarantine measures meant to stop the spread of the disease, now known as COVID-19. The World Health Organization has praised China's response, but it's worried it could spread to poor countries.
If this virus makes it to a weaker health system, it will create havoc. It depends on how really we lead this response and how we respond to the outbreak.
The scientific community still doesn't know a lot about the virus, and a vaccine probably won't be ready for another 18 months. But China's leading epidemiologist says the outbreak will soon plateau, at least in China.
The rate of new infections is gradually declining. According to the analysis of our mathematical model, the epidemic will reach its peak in the south regions after the middle of February, or in the second half of the month.
But no one really knows for sure, and thousands of COVID-19 patients are in critical condition in the epicenter of Wuhan. Experts say the incubation period could be longer than first thought, up to 24 days before patients show any symptoms. Chinese officials have launched a mass disinfection campaign in cities far away from the epidemic to keep it at bay. And in Wuhan itself, patients are doing what they can to pass the time before they too can walk out of quarantine. Andrew Chappell, Al Jazeera.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. China to provide 5,000 tons of rice for the Gambia. Banjulians want revival of city's glory. Yundum Barracks Senior Secondary School inaugurated. That's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you.